Hello again, Struckpub. Today I will be sharing with you my impressions and an overview of the recently released free content update for Warhammer Chaosbane called The Forges. This update brought a new character to the roster. She is a fierce, feisty dwarf that can be played either as a close range to mid-range character or maybe slightly longer range if you choose to. She doesn't have that many long range abilities, so her strong feats are explosions, turrets and close to mid-range combat. You can expect her to be using grenades as well, such as a Molotov cocktail, a smoke bomb, or you can also see something like a mortar, so expect a ton of explosions and burning. She uses a pistol and a hammer to decimate through the chaos hordes, so you would definitely be having fun if you like that kind of playstyle. And speaking of hammers and hammer time, the forges are open. So what we would need to be doing in the forges, I would not spoil much for you, but I would say that Heinrich Falk, the gunnery master of the Imperial Gunnery School, requests our aid. And he wants us to investigate what's happening, why the headmaster and some other members of the gunnery have been trapped inside, and why there's monsters roaming these hollowed halls. So we have to find out the truth behind it and who is responsible for this. The patch is kind of a big one, and the patch notes may not seem like much, but here would be some of the highlights, and then I'm gonna go over the rest of the patch notes in detail, and after that I'm gonna give you some of my impressions about the changes. So you see new character, new act, then new enemies, pretty fun, new 2 difficulty levels, Chaos 9 and 10, and quests being added to expeditions. So I haven't played expeditions to test what that would be, but I'll test it later tonight when streaming. Then the legendary rank is now shared by all characters across the same save file, which is amazing. I tested it and it really is nice. Then new stat wife drain has been added. You can wife leech with that, and there's been improvements such as remembering your last blessings and destructible elements being traps as well. They also added new loading screens, which are amazing. The artist has done a great job in that department. Then of course there's a little bit more options when you click the main menu and go to graphics. You might wanna check those. I didn't see that much new stuff, but there is something new there for people who needed this. Now let's move on to things like balance. Balancing has been done across all characters and across the items and across the enemies in general. Of course, 2 new difficulties would require this. You can see some of the changes listed here on your screen. I'm not gonna go through all of them, but basically the legendary passive skills have been rebalanced. The Bloodlust has also been rebalanced. XP required for leveling up the legendary ranks has been reduced. And the passive god skill points cost has also been reduced. So now passive god skills cost 5, 10, and 15 instead of 6, 12 and 18. Active god skills still cost 6, 12 and 18. As I said, every character got kind of a bit of balance on it, some more than others, some less, but in general everyone has been kind of buffed. Everyone has been brought on par with the incoming 2 new difficulties, Chaos 9 and 10. You can see here about Volen, and now you're gonna see a little bit about the mage changes. You can also read the patch notes, link in the description yourself, but I've kind of summed up everything in here. I'm not gonna talk about everything in detail, but I can tell you, just by reading at the patch notes, I can guarantee you that every character would feel a bit better and a bit stronger, and maybe would be able to complete with full green gear, min-maxed and a nice synergized build, would be able to complete the new 2 difficulties. I won't attempt until I gear up my dwarf, but I can maybe sometimes attempt on my other characters just to see how the new difficulties feel. You can see how Bragi has been balanced, and now let's show you a little bit about Elessa. She didn't receive much balancing, but there's still enough, I guess. In general, there's other things that I think also need to be rebalanced, but for more about that later. So there's a little bit about item balancing. There's new reworks on some of the items, and there's also new items. One of the people I was playing with yesterday found a new necklace that I've never seen, and the counterattack stat has also been increased on equipments, not on blessings, just on items. When you have a counterattack bonus, it would be higher. For example, I think from 600-700 it goes to 800-900, maybe 1000. So you can see some rings have been changed, like a Grumbly Ring has been changed, and some other rings have been changed to kind of give more stats. So the Grumbly Ring now gives bonuses, I think, based on picking up the Rage Globes. So the Rage Globes would play a big part in regards to some of the new things. There's also been a lot of bug fixes, but the game definitely still hasn't fixed some of the bugs from the previous updates. I still encountered some bricked zones that cannot be continued because the progress is kind of blocked by a grayed out map, which you can see on your screen. And this bug was first introduced into the game with the previous major update, the Tomb King's paid DLC, and it still hasn't been fixed. There's other bugs that still haven't been fixed, not that major, not that annoying, but I can tell you that there's still some work to be done in that regard, as well as work to be done in regards to balancing some of the weaker skills that people barely ever use in their high-end high-level endgame builds. So enough about the patch notes, let's tell you a bit about what I think the update feels like. It feels nice. The short story is not that much, but it's still nice to have this story. It could take you about an hour, maybe hour and a half if you're slow. If you're fast, you can probably complete it in 30 minutes if you're skipping the voiceovers and everything. Speaking of voiceovers, I'm enjoying Keela's voiceover a lot. It's a blast playing her, pun intended here. And yeah, it's definitely great to play her. Definitely great to hear her voice lines. The story seems like a decent new act, decent new chapter added to it. And keep in mind that if you don't have a single character that has completed the main story Magnus's Gift, you may not be able to play content like Invasions. But if you do, you can just go ahead and create a new dwarf and just do the new chapter together with the Tomb King's chapter to unlock those passive potions and passive skills that come with the Tomb Kings and Forges updates. And you would be able to just jump right into the end game and start grinding if you don't want to complete Magnus's Gift story. But if you want to hear the voiceover of that story, I'm sure you might enjoy doing that as well. Now I want to talk a little bit about Keela. I don't want to spoil too much, but she definitely feels fun to play. I tested playing her as a melee turretier. I also tested playing her as a more kind of a ranged mortar kind of explosive specialist, and I've unlocked 3 out of 4 sets, and I can tell you, even without completing a red set, even without completing a red set and just mixing and matching some of the items, I was able to do Chaos 5 on her without completing a red set. Of course, when you complete a red set, things become a bit easier, and I even have a way of a setup that I could suggest for you right now if you want to play the mortar specialists. Tonight on my stream I will be experimenting with all the different sets and finding out synergies and trying to get my invasions unlocked to get duelist chain reaction and other good stuff. But I can tell you she has fun items that you can experiment with, and You would be seeing on your screen now some of the items and some of the rings that I found and some of the hammers and pistols, just to give you a general idea about what builds you might want to do. And I can also share with you here the passive skills and the active skills and the god skills I was using for one of the runs that I recorded. Most of the runs I recorded uh, were run on a different setup, but then I decided to kind of optimize it, get more damage and change up the skills, and this is what ended up coming out of the furnace. You just saw the god skills, and here is the active and passive skills that were used for the more damagey kind of setup with the mortar set. I hope this build kind of suits you if you want some sort of a starter build on Keela to build upon further and further. So let me also demonstrate some of the sets that she's got. So the Anvil Strike set, Daughter of the Forge, is a set that allows melee attacks to generate an ingenuity charge that increases damage and reduces damage taken by all players for a few seconds. This effect stacks up to 50 times. So 50 times of 5% damage and 0.5% damage reduction, and those stacks dissipate each 10 seconds. Also, this gives you a heavy pounding skill being improved, meaning a heroic version of the skill that costs 0 points and is stronger, which is this skill. I'm assuming it's probably gonna do fire, and it's probably gonna have stun chance, and we will see what exactly is gonna happen. My guess is releases hit on impact which damages enemies would be combined with this one. The next set I already have completed, gives us access to the heroic Makeshift Automaton, which you can see is the heroic version of the turrets. It still gives us only 3 turrets. I was expecting to at least get 1 or 2 more turrets with the heroic version of the skill, but it is nice because it's using all 3 things the other 3 turrets do. So it can shoot like a machine gun, it can burn like a flamethrower, and it can shoot explosive projectiles like rockets. So it's combining all 3 types of turret you can use in one skill, so super nice. Let's see the item of this set. So all damage is increased based on the number of turrets deployed. Damage goes to 10% by turret, and as you just saw, we've got 3 turrets here, and from a passive skill you can get another where was it? Another just want to show you here, another 2 turrets. That's 5 turrets, which means it's kind of underwhelming, giving you only 50% extra damage. I was expecting more from this, kind of disappointed from how this turned out. Now the next set would be the Powder Carrier set, the Powder Air, which gives you the following bonus. Damage from all explosives is increased. Being hit by an enemy has a chance to drop a bomb. We don't know what that chance is, I would like to know. Then the damage is 100% from all explosions. That's the increase, twice the damage. So the mortar skill is improved and no longer requires skill points to equip. That's the heroic mortar. Bombard an area with a shower of frag bombs that explode on impact and create additional smaller explosions. I can even demonstrate it. I can demonstrate the turrets because I need enemies, but that's what it is. So enough about this set, I guess. Let's move on to the next set. So the Blaze set. Blaze Heart. Damage over time and critical hit damage from fire skills increase based on overheating level. Overheating charges are no longer regularly lost, which are the charges you get while using your skills. Regardless of what skills you use, you would be getting more charges based on the skill. So as you see, this gives us 1% per charge, and that's crit hit damage and 10 damage over time bonus. This goes up to 100 charges, so that can give us up to 100% crit damage and 1000 damage over time bonus. The damage over time bonus seems like a kind of a very small one if it's flat 1000, but I guess it's still not that bad. And the passive skill that we get is the Giratina speech, which is the heroic version of this passive. So fire damage is increased and overheating increases this fire damage even more. Burning an enemy reduces their damage for a few seconds, and overheating explosions leave a trail of fire for a few moments. So this would be super nice for some of those higher levels. If you want to be pushing some of the higher level content, that damage reduction stacked with some of the other sources of damage reduction that she's got are super nice. I'm gonna quickly show you some of the skills she's got, just so you can have some general idea what to expect. Of course, each skill has 2 more versions, but I'm just quickly scrolling through those for those of you who do not have the game and are just wondering what skills she's coming with. Feel free to pause on any of those. Some are god skills, some are regular skills, some are passive, some are passive god skills. So just to have a general idea about the things that you might expect from building a character like her. So that's kind of it. Then there's new general skills that came with the Forges update. There is this one, padded armor, which goes all the way to 100 stacks for a total of 40% damage reduction, and those stacks dissipate for 6 seconds each, but you can keep getting hit and keep getting those stacks building up to prevent the dissipation. Then there's barbs. Damage is reduced, but damage over time is increased based on damage. Physical damage from skills has a chance to inflict bleeding. So I'm not sure whether stacking damage in the gear would be better than stacking damage over time. My guess is it would be with this one. Then poisoned pouches, this would be great for those lesser poison builds. Physical damage from skills has a chance to poison enemies. Poison damage is increased. That's the new stuff. The rest is from the Tom King's update, those things, and this from Invasion, if people are wondering how to get those. This is from the Collector's Guild for new players that don't know. When you sell items to the NPC, you don't sell them, you donate them, and it gives you reputation, and then eventually you unlock those. So this is not new stuff. So hopefully this kind of gives you an idea about what to expect from this update, from this new hero. If you enjoyed this video and want to be notified when I upload more content, you could subscribe to my channel for updates regarding Warhammer Chaosbane, Torchlight 3, Walls and Words of Mayhem, or other similar isometric hack and slash shooters, as well as some Borderlands 3 content. Feel free to share your impressions of the new update in the comment section below. Thank you for watching the video, folks. Keep it cool, and until next time from me. Goodbye.